now? Okay. Thank you for your attendance today. Today I am going to present a paper that examines the moderating effect of the attitudinal ambivalence in the relationship between privacy concerns and information provision in e-commerce context. So as you know, global market is becoming competitive nowadays. E-commerce is not an exception. So facing such a fierce competition, online vendors seek to be competitive by gradually providing more personalized products and services. However, to offer the personalized services or products, the central issue is to the data collection. So online vendors, they need to collect as much personal information as possible from their customers. Based on the personal information they collected, they can identify their purchase behavior and their preferences toward different products and services. However, the collection of personal information inevitably increases privacy concern, which demotivate people to provide their personal information to online vendors. Privacy concern can be defined as a person's concern about the loss of control over his or her personal information. So that's why previous studies have widely examined the impact of the private concern on different behaviors in different contexts. However, surprisingly, the empirical evidences of the studies seem mixed or inconsistent. For example, some studies show a significant negative effect of the privacy concern on different behaviors, whereas others report a marginal effect of the privacy concern, even in the similar settings. So this is known as privacy paradox. Simply speaking, why people they do not act as they say. People clearly tell that I'm highly concerned about my privacy when I provide my sensitive personal information. However, they actually provide their personal information even for no reward. So these inconsistent results signify that the effect of private concern on information disclosures might be variant and fluctuate, and also need to examine important factors that moderate the effect of the privacy concerns. That's why we are motivated to examine the effect of the attitudinal ambivalence, because that ambivalence has been found that significantly moderated the relationship between attitude and behavior. Attitudinal ambivalence suggests that the individual can hold equivalently positive and negative evaluation toward a focal object at the same time. Commonly, we are assumed that people's attitude toward an object or behavior can be positioned along the continuum of which positive and negative attitudes are two endpoints of the continuum, which means the people can have only one single attitude, either positive or negative toward an object or behavior. However, attitudinal ambivalence argued that no people can hold both positive and negative attitude at the same time. Previous studies suggest that attitudinal ambivalence attenuates the relation between attitude and behavior. So which means when you have the both positive and negative attitude for the object, your current attitude cannot predict your behavior much. Particularly when your attitude is ambivalent, you are hard to connect an attitude with a positive or negative evaluations. So which means it prevents access to attitude in deciding behavior. So you don't know whether an object or behavior is certainly positive or negative. It fluctuates and variant. That's why you do not have any dominant salient evaluation toward an object or behavior. It changes across time, across context. For example, today you may like to study hard, which means you have positive evaluation or attitude towards study. However, tomorrow you change it quickly and dislike the study. So under the attitudinal ambivalence, you do not have any salient attitude or evaluations. So your behavior is much less affected by your current attitude. According to the social exchange theories, people's providing personal information can be considered as a social exchange code. People provide their personal information in return for some reward or services given by the online vendor. So they provide their personal information as input and receive some reward as an output of the exchanges. When a person engages in an exchange process for something, the fairness of the exchange is very important. So when people are requested to embark in any exchange process, they generally tend to evaluate whether the information exchange process is a fair or justice. According to the social exchange theories, people, when they embark in any exchange process, they're gonna evaluate both consequence fairness and process fairness. So which means the output of the exchange is either fair to my input. Also, they evaluate whether the process of the exchange is fair or not. For deciding on information exchanges, people tend to consider the fairness of the consequences by comparing the benefit and risk of the information provision behavior. So as I told you, when they embark in an information exchange process, they just provide their personal information as input and see the output of their input. So when the output is, the value of the output is lower than the value of the input, they perceive that exchange as unfair. Then they are not likely to embark in exchange process. At the same time, they also check whether data collection or data management process is fair or not. So overall, according to the social exchange theories, so when people considers information provision as the exchange process and take their personal information as the input for the exchanges. To embark in the exchange process, people generally check or evaluate whether the consequence is fair and the exchange process is fair. So these two fairness are important that motivated people to provide their personal information or engage in information exchange process. Drawing on the previous study, we decided several important factors that affect the decision of the engaging information exchanges. The first two factors are about the consequence fairness. They are benefit and privacy risk. So benefit indicate the reward given by online vendors, including monetary such as coupons or personalized services such as delivery tracking or personalized recommendations. These are the outputs or rewards of the information exchange process. On the other hand, privacy risk is a negative consequences a person can perceive. So when by providing their personal information, they may believe that they will lose their control over their personal information. So these are the bright side and negative side of the information exchange process. So according to the attitudinal ambivalence, when people engage in information exchange, they can have both benefit and the risk factors. What I mean is, they can perceive both positive and negative side of the information exchanges. The other two factors are related to procedure fairness. They are proper data handling versus improper data handling. So according to previous study, the people perceive the data collection as fair when online vendors provide proper information about the data collection procedures. For example, what personal information is collected and how many personal information are collected and how the online vendor to use that collected information. So when proper information of the data collection is provided to the customer, a customer perceives that procedure of the information collection is fair. At the same time, when online vendors ask the permission or consent from the information providers when they collect the data or use the data, the people perceive the collection process is fair. So information about data collection and permission are two important factors by which people evaluate whether the procedure is fair or not. Improper data handling is the negative side of the data collection procedures. In many cases, online vendors, they are allowed unauthorized people to access the personal information, or they are going to collect too much personal information. So when people perceive these behaviors, they certainly perceive that the data collection and management is unfair. So people can hold this positive and negative evaluation toward data collection management at the same time, according to the attitudinal ambivalence. During this theory and the previous study, we developed three important hypotheses to test. So this is the data model. The first hypothesis suggests that privacy concern had negative effect on willingness to disclose, provide personal information to online vendor. So we hypothesize the negative relationship between privacy concern and willingness to provide information. And second hypothesis is that the ambivalence of the benefit and privacy risk negatively moderated the impact of the privacy concern, which means when customer, they have both positive evaluation and negative evaluation about consequence of the information provided, then that weakened the impact of the privacy concerns. At the same time, final hypothesis suggests that the ambivalence of proper and improper data handling would weaken the impact of the privacy concerns. So when people have the negative and positive evaluation toward the data collection management at the same time, that ambivalence will weaken the impact of privacy concerns. To test our hypothesis, we surveyed undergraduate students enrolled in a major university in the United States. So we approached almost about 400 people. However, among them, 292 complete the survey. So the effective response rate is 72.6. We measured the investigated construct with question items adapted from the previous validated scales with minor word changes to fit our study context. We also calculated the ambivalence following the formula developed by the Thompson and his colleague in 1995. And finally, we analyzed the data using a partial risk scale structural equation modeling, PLSM. And this is the analysis result. As you see that the privacy concern had a negative or effect, significant negative effect on the willingness to information disclosure. So the first hypothesis is supported. However, the moderating effect of the attitudinal ambivalence of the benefit and the privacy risk was marginal. So second hypothesis was not supported. And finally, the moderating effect of the attitudinal ambivalence of the proper and improper data handling significantly weakened the impact of the privacy concern, which support our hypothesis. At the next step, we additionally analyzed why the effect of the attitudinal ambivalence of the benefit and privacy risk was marginal. So we sorted all the data by the two types of the ambivalences respectively and considered top 45% and 40% and 30% as the high ambivalence group, and took the bottom 45% and 40% and 30% as the low ambivalence group. So in total, we had 12 different groups depending on the two different types of the ambivalences. So as you see from the screen, the effect of the privacy concern was significant for all low ambivalence group. So which means when you have any strong salient attitude or evaluation toward the information disclosure, privacy concern shows significant effect. On the other hand, when you have the high ambivalence, which means you have both positive and negative evaluation toward information disclosures, then the effect of the privacy concerns was marginal for ambivalence of the proper versus improper data handling, which reconfirmed the analysis result of the PLS-SAM. However, if you look at the test result regarding the effect of the privacy concern for the high ambivalence group for the AMB, which is the attitudinal ambivalence of the benefit and privacy risk. So privacy concern had a significant effect for the top 45% and 40% group. However, its effect changed to the insignificant for top 30%. So this result may suggest that the ambivalence of the benefit and privacy risk become effective when people have some high level of the ambivalence. And also we can infer that the moderating effect of the ambivalence of the benefit and privacy risk can be non-linear. Of course, this study has several limitations. The first is our external validity can be limited because we just collect the data from student sample only. So we cannot generalize our result to the common people. Secondly, we just measured willingness of the information provision instead of the actual behavior. So there might be some gap between the intention and their actual behavior. Finally, PLS-SAM may not be an effective method for analyzing or testing a theory-based model. So variance-based SAM may be more appropriate for testing our model. So these are the limitations of this study. Thank you for listening. And do you have any questions?
Thank you, John. And interesting paper. Let's open the floor. Yeah, if we have any questions from the audience, or for those who also wanted to ask, they can either raise the hand and ask, or they could just write in the chat. We have a question from Dr. Amar. Go ahead. Maybe Dr. Adnan, you need to unmute the attendees so they can speak. Dr. Adnan. John, can you unmute Abbas?
No, I cannot. I have no control. Yeah.
I see.
All the
Only maybe
systems.
Dr. Adnan. Okay, since I cannot do. Amr, for the time being, I don't know, maybe Dr. Adnan is having some issue. You can write down your question in the chat box. Okay, while you're doing that, please do write your question in the chat box. Dr. Amr, I don't know, there's, yeah.
Okay, thank you, Amir, for your catches. So you are catches that you have taken 2 moderator, but can you tell me their directions? So directions of the moderating, as I told you, the 2 moderator factors, the weaken the impact of the privacy concerns. So which means direction is a negative.
Maybe, and John, if you go back to your research model, it's clear that, yeah, those.
Right. So as you see from the table. Yes, okay, so I see that the effect of the privacy concern can be weakened in the presence of the strong ambivalence. Yes, perceived benefit can be a moderate because if you see some strong rewards in return for your personal information, that mitigated the impact of the privacy concerns. You're right. But previous studies had 2 streams of the direction. So some previous study considered the direct effect of the benefit on information provided. Secondly, some studies consider the benefit as a moderate factors. But as long as I know that there is no positive result that examine the moderate effect of the benefits. But however, you're right, that is possible. And however, the point of the study is to examine the moderating effect of the attitudinal ambivalence. So we do not consider the moderating effect of the benefit. And very interesting question. So, okay, there are several important factors that affect your perceived fairness of the relationship, fairness of the data collection procedures. For example, secondly, use maybe another important problem. So which means online vendors, okay, for example, examine promise that, okay, so after collecting your personal information, we just use your personal information internally only for our business purpose. However, in many cases, they just transfer or share the personal information with third party without the permission or notice. There may be some another important factor that affect the perceived fairness of the data collections. Hopefully this can be the answer to your question. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. John, I have also a couple of questions. When you go back to the research framework, yeah, can you please to the slide that shows, yeah, this one. Okay, so here, what is the new and what is there in the literature you added on?
One thing I can add here is the previous studies suggest that people's formed private concern or intention to provide information can be different between the in general setting and the specific situation setting. For example, in general, you're highly concerned about your privacies and you have the less willingness to provide your personal information. However, in a specific situation, your concern or your intention can be changing. So it may be important to measure the gap between the private concern and the information disclosure behavior between the general situation and specific situations. So that the gap may affect the effect of the private concern on information disclosure.
Do you have ever thought about a model where you like maybe used by a business to price the information? So usually the business, they use those information, and there is a risk of those business to disclose this information to a third party.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, right.
For us as individuals, can we like sell our information as a sort of product? And since at the end, they will not only use them for, you know, as a customer, even they may share them with the third party, especially those marketing companies that try to the customer behavior in the market.
Yes, that is important because, you know, the people are highly concerned about such the secondary use of the collected information. Yes, you're right.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so it's sometimes maybe it's a good to think about while those being collected are used by different.
Yeah, you're right. So chances are, you know, that I need to integrate the factor you mentioned into the model to provide a novel contributions and findings to the literature.
Yeah, or even it could be even a new paper that study or investigate how individual could price her information.
Yeah.
Yeah, and
very interesting question. The value of the personal information. Yes.
Yeah, and
yeah, price their personal information. Yeah, it's very interesting part. You're right.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Okay, so let's take a question from Dr. Here from Beng. He wrote it here in the chat. Do you see him? Do you see the questions, John?
I'm sorry, Musa.
He asking about what are the practical implications.
Practical implication
on businesses. Yeah.
Oh yeah. Other practical implications, the company need to find a way how to mitigate it. Okay, how to increase the such as the ambivalence to mitigate the private concern. So private concern is the important determinant of the information disclosure. So from the perspective of the online vendor, they need to collect as much personal information as possible from the customer. However, due to the private concern, they do not want to willingly provide their personal information. However, this paper showed that when people have some positive and negative evaluations, at the same time, the effect of the private concern is mitigated. So in other words, we can separate the customer as three groups. One group having a positive evaluation toward information disclosure. So this group of people, they are willingly provide personal information, no issue there. Second group, they have highly negative toward information disclosure. So the company need to find a way how to increase its positive evaluation toward information disclosure. Thereby, they have their behavior, or sorry, their evaluation or their attitude should be ambivalent at least. So final group have the ambivalent group. For the group, the companies need to find a way to increase the positive evaluation toward information disclosure. So I think that can be a practical implementation of the study.
See. Okay. Anyone else has questions? Okay, seems No one. So thank you again, John. It's really interesting to see how people would behave with their concern about their privacy and looking at those factors and the willing, are they gonna willing to disclose or not? But do you think after willing here will come the intention, or it's just a reflection of individual intention?
Yeah, right. Sorry, Musa?
No, I'm saying the willing. What is it? Like a reflection of individual intention. So after
Yes, right. We
we
just
should
measure
measure.
their willingness to provide their personal information because it is practically not possible to measure their actual behavior without using the experiment. We just use a survey. So this is one of our limitations, as I told you. So to capture the actual behavior, I think that I need to conduct experiments.
Okay, I see. I see. Yeah, this is could be.
Could be a
In
future
this.
reaction.
Yeah, yeah. Okay, thank you, John, very much for sharing your research with us. It was interesting and insightful. Let's wrap it up and looking forward to see everyone, inshallah, for our second webinar. Yeah, like in a month from now. But we usually have a seminar. We're gonna have a seminar after 2 weeks, and on March 9, 29. Yeah, and building 24. So for those who can join, please do so.
Okay.
Okay, thank you very much. So just let's say bye. Have a good day all. Bye.
You too. Bye.